Four black quadruplet sisters, abandoned at birth by their parents, grew up unaware of the shocking truth buried deep in their past. Now, at 28, a hidden letter unearths secrets that unravel their family's carefully guarded lies. What drove their parents to forsake them? Who is the mysterious woman claiming to be their mother? Join us as this gripping family drama unfolds, revealing betrayals and bonds that defy time. Subscribe now, share where you're tuning in from, and let us know your predictions for this tale. Stick around. Twists await that will leave you speechless. The Beverly Hills mansion glowed under the California sunset, its glass walls reflecting the golden hour. Inside Simone's sprawling living room, chandeliers sparkled above a table adorned with crystal flutes and decadent desserts. Jazz hummed from hidden speakers, weaving through laughter as the four quadruplet sisters, Simone, Nia, Jade, and Layla, celebrated their 28th birthday. Each sister, a vibrant force, carried the same warm brown skin and fierce eyes, yet their personalities painted them distinct. Tonight, their bond felt unbreakable, but a secret, buried for decades, was about to surface. Simone, the entrepreneur whose fashion empire, Luxe Vibe, dressed Hollywood's elite, glided through the room like a CEO on a runway. Her silk dress shimmered as she raised a glass. "To us," she toasted, her voice commanding, yet warm, "four queens who've conquered the world." Guests, industry moguls, influencers, and friends cheered. Simone had orchestrated the night with precision, from the Michelin-starred chef to the custom cocktails, showcasing her knack for turning moments into spectacles. Yet beneath her polished smile, a flicker of loneliness lingered. She'd built an empire but hadn't found time for love. Nia, the scientist, sat quietly, her glasses catching the light as she sipped sparkling water. A researcher at UCLA, she just published a breakthrough paper on immunotherapy, a milestone she downplayed. "Simone, you're too extra," she teased, adjusting her simple blazer. Her sisters laughed, but Nia's sharp mind was already analyzing the room, noting every detail, the way the caterers moved, the guests' hushed whispers. Her logic-driven world rarely left room for chaos, but tonight, chaos was coming. Jade, the military officer, leaned back in her chair, her tailored blazer hiding the strength of a seasoned soldier. Newly promoted to major in the U.S. Army's intelligence unit, she radiated authority. "Extra! This is tame for Simone," Jade quipped, her grin softening her disciplined demeanor. She shared a story of outsmarting a rookie during training, her hands gesturing like she was still in the field. Jade's protective instincts, honed by years of service, scanned the room instinctively, sensing a tension she couldn't yet name. Layla, the social media star, was the heart of the party. Her R&B voice had millions captivated on Instagram and YouTube, and tonight she glowed in a sequined jumpsuit. "Y'all, I've got a gift," she announced, dimming the lights. A projector flickered, showing her latest music video, Soul's Echo, a soulful ballad that hit 2 million views in days. As her voice filled the room, guests swayed, and Layla's eyes shimmered with emotion. Her music was her way of touching souls, but her sensitive heart often felt the weight of the world. The sisters' father, Robert, a retired white lawyer with silver hair and kind eyes, watched from the sidelines. He'd raised them with their late mother, Vanessa, a black community activist who passed 8 years ago. Robert clapped for Layla's video, but his smile faltered when Simone hugged him, whispering, "You okay, Dad?" He nodded too quickly and excused himself to get a drink. As the party buzzed, Layla slipped away to rearrange gifts on a side table, her curiosity piqued by an antique wooden box tucked behind a vase. She opened it, expecting trinkets, but found a yellowed envelope. Her breath caught as she read the handwritten words. "My daughters, Vanessa was not your birth mother. Your real mother, Grace, is alive. Do not seek her. It's too dangerous. Forgive me." "Robert!" The shaky script felt like a plea, and Layla's heart raced. She called her sisters to a quiet corner, her voice trembling. "Y'all need to see this." Simone's eyes narrowed as she snatched the letter, her business mind racing. "This can't be real. Dad would have told us. We need to verify this, now." Her instinct to control kicked in, already planning to call her lawyer to trace any Grace tied to their family. Nia adjusted her glasses, studying the paper's texture. The ink's old, but the handwriting's stressed. Uneven pressure. I can analyze it at the lab to confirm if it's Dad's. Her scientific precision cut through the panic, grounding the moment. Jade, ever the strategist, inspected the envelope's frayed edges. This was opened before. Someone else saw it. And look, there's a faint postmark from New Orleans. Her military training screamed caution, her mind mapping out an investigation. We need to confront Dad, but quietly. This feels bigger than a letter. Layla clutched the envelope, her voice soft but firm. This is pain, not a lie. I feel it. What if our real moms are out there waiting? Her artist's intuition sensed a story untold, and she instinctively reached for her phone, tempted to post a cryptic lyric for her followers. Simone grabbed Layla's wrist. No social media, Layla. Not yet. We handle this as a family. The sisters exchanged glances, their bond tightening despite the shock. They turned to find Robert re-entering, his face paling as he saw the letter in Simone's hand. Girls, what's that? He asked, voice strained. Simone stepped forward, her tone sharp. Dad, we need to talk. Now. As Robert fumbled for words, denying he wrote the letter, Jade noticed his phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. They found it. Fix this. The room seemed to close in, the jazz now a haunting backdrop. Was their father hiding a betrayal? Who was Grace, and why was she dangerous? The sisters' world was unraveling, and their search for truth was just beginning. The morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Simone's office, a minimalist haven of glass and steel within her Beverly Hills mansion. The jazz from last night's party was gone, replaced by a tense silence as the four quadruplet sisters, Simone, Nia, Jade, and Layla, sat around a sleek conference table. The yellowed letter, its words heavy with betrayal, lay between them like a grenade. Their father, Robert, had denied writing it, but his pale face and shaky hands told a different story. Now the sisters needed answers, and their bond, though strong, was tested by the weight of suspicion. Simone, the entrepreneur, leaned forward, her manicured nails tapping the table. Her silk blazer screamed power, but her eyes betrayed worry. We can't let this slide, she said, voice sharp. If Dad's lying, it's not just about Grace. It could be about our whole lives. As the head of Lux Vibe, she was used to controlling chaos, and this felt like a hostile takeover of her family. She'd already texted her lawyer, demanding a background check on any Grace linked to Robert. I'm not waiting for Dad to come clean. We need a plan. Nia, the scientist, adjusted her glasses, her laptop open to a handwriting analysis program. Her simple sweater contrasted with Simone's glamour, but her mind was a scalpel. The letter's ink is at least a decade old, she said, zooming in on a scanned image. The strokes are Robert's, but they're erratic. Stress, maybe fear. I'll run a deeper analysis at UCLA, but this wasn't casual. She noticed a faint watermark on the paper, a rare stationery brand from New Orleans, and jotted it down. Nia's logic anchored the group, but the idea of their father's deception gnawed at her. Jade, the military officer, stood by the window, her tailored uniform crisp despite the sleepless night. As a major in Army intelligence, she trusted her gut, and it screamed danger. That letter wasn't meant for us to find, she said, arms crossed. The envelope was tampered with. Someone else read it first. She checked Robert's phone log through a discreet military contact and found repeated calls to a New Orleans number over the past 3 months. Dad's been in touch with someone there. We need to know who. Her protective instincts flared, ready to shield her sisters from whatever lurked. Layla, the social media star, clutched her notebook, where she'd scribbled lyrics inspired by the letter's pain. Her bohemian dress flowed as she paced, her R&B singer's heart wrestling with anger and hope. This isn't just a mystery, it's our mom, she said, voice cracking. What if Grace is waiting for us and Dad's keeping her away? Last night she'd posted a cryptic Instagram story, a lyric about a mother's shadow, and woke to thousands of comments. One anonymous message stood out. Grace is in New Orleans. Robert's not who you think. Layla hesitated, then showed her sisters. Someone out there knows something? Simone's eyes flashed. Layla, you can't just post about this. We're not airing our drama online. Her entrepreneur's instinct to control clashed with Layla's openness, sparking tension. Jade stepped in, her military calm cutting through. She's right, Layla, but that message is a lead. We trace it, not broadcast it. Nia nodded, suggesting they cross-reference the New Orleans clues, stationery, phone calls, and the message. The sisters agreed to confront Robert, and Simone led them to the mansion's library where he sat, nursing a coffee. His silver hair was disheveled, his kind eyes shadowed. "Girls, I told you that letter's a mistake," he said, but his voice wavered. Simone, using her negotiation skills, pressed him. "Dad, you taught us to face the truth. Vanessa wasn't our birth mother. Fine. But Grace? Why hide her?" Robert sighed, rubbing his temples. "Grace was trouble. A singer. Unstable. Addicted. She left you at the hospital. I took you in to protect you. That's all." Jade's military training caught his micro-expressions, averted gaze, clenched jaw. "You're not telling us everything," she said, stepping closer. "Who've you been calling in New Orleans?" Robert froze, then deflected. "Old legal clients. Nothing to do with this." Nia, ever analytical, held up the letter. "This paper's from New Orleans. Your handwriting under stress. Explain that." Robert's face hardened. "You're digging into things you don't understand. Let it go." Layla, her singer's empathy breaking through, knelt beside him. "Dad, we love you, but this hurts. If Grace is alive, we deserve to know her." Her words softened Robert's defenses, but he shook his head. "She's dangerous. Trust me." As he stood to leave, his phone buzzed again. Jade glimpsed the screen, a text from the New Orleans number. "They're asking questions. Come now." Simone called an emergency meeting back in her office. "He's hiding something big," she said, already booking flights to New Orleans through her assistant. "I've got contacts there. We'll find Grace ourselves." Nia volunteered to trace the stationery's origin, her scientific mind hungry for evidence. Jade planned to use her military network to identify the phone number's owner, her strategic brain in overdrive. Layla, despite Simone's warning, drafted a private Instagram post to her closest followers, asking if anyone knew a jazz singer named Grace, promising discretion. As the sisters prepared to defy Robert's warning, a rift emerged. Layla's impulsiveness clashed with Simone's control, while Nia's caution balanced Jade's boldness. "We're a family," Jade said, her voice firm. "We do this together, or not at all." They nodded, but the letter's words echoed. Too dangerous. Why was Robert so afraid? Was Grace a victim or a threat? And who was watching from New Orleans, pulling strings? The sisters didn't know it, but Robert was already packing a bag, booking a red-eye to New Orleans. As he slipped out, he whispered to himself, "I'm sorry, girls. I tried to keep you safe." The truth, buried for 28 years, was clawing its way out, and nothing would be the same. The French Quarter pulsed with life, its cobblestone streets alive with jazz riffs and the scent of beignets. Neon signs flickered above bourbon-soaked bars, and laughter spilled from open windows. In a sleek loft rented by Simone, overlooking the Mississippi, the four Quadruplets sisters, Simone, Nia, Jade, and Layla, gathered around a dining table strewn with maps and notes. The letter's words, "Grace is alive, too dangerous," hung heavy, and Robert's sudden departure to New Orleans, revealed by Jade's military contacts, fueled their urgency. The sisters were on a mission, their bond a lifeline in the city's seductive chaos. Simone, the entrepreneur, stood at the table's head, her tailored jumpsuit as sharp as her resolve. "We're not tourists," she declared, her voice cutting through the distant saxophone wail. "We find Grace, get answers, and protect our family's name." Her Lux Vibe empire gave her connections, and she'd already called a New Orleans event planner, Marie, who knew the jazz scene. Marie confirmed Grace was a singer at Club Crescent decades ago, vanishing after a fire. Simone wired funds for Marie's network to dig deeper, her business acumen turning the city into a chessboard. Nia, the scientist, hunched over her portable lab kit, analyzing a strand of hair found in Robert's antique box alongside the letter. Her UCLA badge glinted as she peered through a microscope. "This hair's DNA is a 50% match to ours," she said, voice steady. "Grace could be our mother, but we need her sample to confirm." She'd traced the letter's stationery to a defunct New Orleans shop, narrowing its purchase to the late 1990s. Nia's methodical mind pieced together timelines, but the possibility of meeting their birth mother stirred an unfamiliar ache. Jade, the military officer, paced near the loft's balcony, her army boots silent on the hardwood. As a major in intelligence, she thrived on strategy, and Robert's New Orleans trip screamed red flags. "He's meeting someone," she said, showing her sisters an encrypted report from a military contact. The New Orleans phone number was tied to a retired cop, Frank Dubois, who investigated the Club Crescent fire. Jade's team was tracking Dubois, and she'd arranged discreet security for the loft, her protective instincts on high alert. "We find Dubois. We find Grace." Layla, the social media star, sat cross-legged, strumming a guitar. Her R&B soul poured into a new melody, inspired by the letter's pain. "The city feels like her," she murmured, her bohemian skirt catching the breeze. Last night, she'd ignored Simone's warning and posted a private Instagram story to her inner circle, asking about a jazz singer named Grace. A follower claiming to be a bartender replied, "Check Preservation Hall. Grace sang there before the fire." Layla's intuition, honed by connecting with millions online, sensed Grace was close, but she kept the message quiet, fearing another rebuke. Simone outlined the plan, split up to cover ground. "Marie's contacts are checking old jazz haunts," she said. "Nia, you and I hit the stationary lead. Jade, track Dubois. Layla, you're with Jade. Stay off social media." Layla bristled but nodded, her fingers itching to sing her heart out. The sisters dispersed into the quarter's heartbeat, unaware that Robert was already in the city, watching from the shadows. At a dusty antique shop, Simone and Nia met the owner, an elderly Creole woman named Miss Clara. Simone's charm and a generous tip loosened Clara's tongue. "That's stationary. Only jazz folk bought it," she said. Grace Dubois was a regular. She sang like an angel before that fire at Club Crescent. Nia's pulse quickened. The hair's DNA and Clara's story aligned. Clara added, "Her man, Michael, died in a crash right after. Broke her." Simone's business mind caught the name. Michael, a possible father? And she pressed for more, but Clara clammed up, muttering, "Some secrets burn." Meanwhile, Jade and Layla navigated the crowded streets to Preservation Hall, a jazz mecca. Jade's military precision scanned for threats, while Layla's warmth drew eyes. Inside, the air was thick with sweat and soul. Jade cornered a grizzled saxophonist, showing Dubois' photo. "Frank's at the old Absinthe House tonight," he grunted. Layla, unable to resist, joined a jam session, her voice soaring through "Summertime." The crowd roared, but one woman, older with silver hair and scars on her hands, froze, staring at Layla. "You sound like her," she whispered, slipping away. Layla chased her into an alley, heart pounding. "Are you Grace?" The woman turned, eyes haunted. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "Robert was right. It's dangerous." Before Layla could respond, Jade pulled her back, spotting a man tailing them. "We're exposed," Jade hissed, ushering Layla to safety. Back at the loft, the sisters reconvened, Layla's encounter igniting hope and fear. "It was her," Layla insisted, describing the woman's scars. Simone's eyes narrowed. "Grace Dubois and Frank Dubois? They're connected." Nia pulled up a digitized newspaper clipping. The Club Crescent fire, 25 years ago, left Grace hospitalized and Frank demoted for mishandling the case. Jade's military instincts kicked in. "Frank knows what Robert's hiding. We confront him tonight." Simone booked a private room at the Absinthe House, her wealth ensuring discretion. Layla strummed a chord, her voice soft. "What if Grace doesn't want us?" The question hung, unanswered. As they prepared, Jade's security team reported a break-in attempt at the loft, thwarted but deliberate. Simone's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Leave New Orleans, or you'll end up like Michael." The sisters locked eyes, their bonds steeling against the threat. Grace was here, and so was danger. But Robert was one step ahead, meeting Frank Dubois in a darkened bar, whispering, "They're too close. We end this now." The New Orleans night hummed with cicadas as the four quadruplet sisters, Simone, Nia, Jade, and Layla, stood outside a weathered shotgun house on the city's edge. Grace's apartment, tucked behind a sagging porch, was a far cry from Simone's Beverly Hills mansion. Faded jazz posters peeled from the walls, and a single bulb flickered above the door. Layla's encounter with Grace at Preservation Hall had confirmed she was their mother, but her warning, "You shouldn't be here," echoed alongside the threatening text. "Leave or end like Michael." With Robert in New Orleans, meeting the mysterious Frank Dubois, the sisters braced for answers, their bond tested by hope and fear. Simone, the entrepreneur, adjusted her silk scarf, her business instincts on edge. "We get the truth tonight," she said, voice low but commanding. Her Lux Vibe empire thrived on calculated risks, and she'd persuaded Grace for this meeting with a promise of discretion, wired through her New Orleans contact, Marie. Simone's mind raced. Grace's connection to Michael, their possible father, and Robert's secrecy could unravel everything. She'd brought a recorder, hidden in her purse, ready to capture every word, her negotiation skills poised to extract clarity. Nia, the scientist, clutched her tablet, where she'd compiled data. The letters New Orleans stationery, the hair's DNA match, and a digitized article about the Club Crescent fire. Her UCLA lab coat was swapped for a practical jacket, but her analytical mind was relentless. "Grace's hospital records from the fire show severe burns," she murmured. "She couldn't have cared for newborns. But why didn't she find us later?" Nia's logic demanded evidence, yet the prospect of meeting her birth mother stirred a quiet longing she couldn't quantify. Jade, the military officer, scanned the street, her army training spotting escape routes and shadows. As a major in intelligence, she'd confirmed Frank Dubois, the ex-cop, was Grace's cousin, tying him to the fire investigation. "Robert's meeting Frank tonight," she said, checking her encrypted phone. Her team had traced Frank to the old Absinthe house, and Jade had stationed a trusted contact nearby. If Grace knows about Michael's death, she's a liability to someone. Her protective instincts flared, ready to shield her sisters from any ambush. Layla, the social media star, gripped her guitar case, her R&B soul aching to connect. Her performance at Preservation Hall had drawn Grace out, and now her heart led the way. "She looked so broken," Layla whispered, her bohemian dress catching the humid breeze. She'd resisted posting about Grace online, heeding Simone's warning, but her latest Instagram story, a lyric about finding home, had sparked comments speculating about her mystery muse. Layla's empathy sensed Grace's pain, but she feared the truth might fracture their fragile hope. Simone knocked, and Grace opened the door, her silver hair framing a face marked by time and scars. "Come in," she said, voice raspy, gesturing to a cluttered living room. A dusty piano sat in the corner, strewn with sheet music. The sisters sat on a worn couch, the air thick with anticipation. Simone, ever the negotiator, spoke first. "Grace, we know you're our mother. The DNA confirms it. Why did you leave us? And what's Robert hiding?" Grace's eyes welled, but she steadied herself. 28 years ago, I was a jazz singer, in love with Michael. A white businessman," she began. "We planned to marry, but his family, the Whitmores, wouldn't have it. A black singer with their heir." She paused, fingers tracing a scar. "I got pregnant with you four." Michael was thrilled, but the Whitmores threatened me. Robert, their lawyer, saved me from a trumped-up theft charge, but he made me sign away my rights after you were born. Said it was the only way to keep you safe. Nia, analytical, interjected. "Safe from what?" "The hospital records show you were injured in the Club Crescent fire right after your birth. Did Robert arrange that?" Grace shook her head. "No, but he used it. I was too weak to fight. He took you, said you'd go to a good home. I thought you were in foster care until now." Her voice broke, and Layla, her singer's heart open, took Grace's hand. "We're here now. Tell us about Michael." Grace's gaze darkened. "Michael died in a car crash a week after you were born. I always thought the Whitmores were behind it. Robert handled the settlement, kept me quiet with money." Jade, her military mind sharp, leaned in. "We found a payment, $500,000 from the Whitmores to Robert post-crash. Was it hush money?" Grace nodded. "I think so. But there's more. Michael's crash wasn't an accident. I heard Robert arguing with someone the night before, saying, 'He's a problem. Deal with it.' Simone's business instincts flared. You're saying Robert was involved in Michael's death? She activated the recorder, but Layla noticed and glared, whispering, Stop it, Simone. This isn't a deal. Simone relented, her need for control clashing with Layla's empathy. Nia, seeking proof, asked, Do you have evidence? Grace hesitated, then pulled a photo from a drawer. Her and Michael, smiling, with Robert in the background, looking grim. This was days before, she said. Ask Robert why he was there. Jade's phone buzzed. A text from her contact. Robert and Frank at Absinthe House. Heated talk. She stood. We need to move. Frank's your cousin, right? What does he know? Grace's eyes widened. Frank worked the fire case. He was paid to botch it. By Robert. They're scared you're here. The sisters exchanged glances, their bond tightening against the betrayal. Simone, thinking like a CEO, offered, Grace, come with us. We'll protect you. Grace refused. I'm too tired, but take this. She handed Layla a cassette tape. It's Robert and a Whitmore, talking after Michael's death. I kept it hidden. As they left, Jade spotted a car idling across the street, same model as the one near their loft. We're being watched, she said, ushering her sisters away. Back at the loft, they played the tape. Robert's voice cold. Michael's gone. Grace won't talk. The girls are safe for now. A second voice, unfamiliar, replied, Keep it that way, or you're next. The sisters froze. Was Robert a protector or a puppet? And why was Grace still hiding something? The tape ended with a faint sound, a woman's sob. Layla gasped, That's Grace. She was there. The sisters realized Grace knew more about Michael's death than she'd admitted. As they planned to confront Frank Dubois, Simone's phone lit up. A text from Robert. Come home, girls. You're in over your heads. The game was on, and the truth was closer and deadlier than ever. The French Quarter's heartbeat thrummed outside the private suite of the Hotel Monteleone, where the four Quadruplet sisters, Simone, Nia, Jade, and Layla, sat in a tense circle. The room's opulence, velvet drapes, mahogany furniture, clashed with the gritty truth on the cassette tape Grace had given them. Robert's voice, chillingly cold, had said, Michael's gone. Grace won't talk. The girls are safe, for now, followed by a Whitmore's threat and Grace's sob. With Robert meeting Frank Dubois, Grace's cousin, at the old Absinthe House, and a tailing car spotted near Grace's apartment, danger loomed. The sisters' bond, forged through years of love, now faced the ultimate test, their father's betrayal. Simone, the entrepreneur, stood by the suite's bar, her tailored blazer as sharp as her glare. This tape is a smoking gun, she said, voice steel. Her Lux Vibe empire thrived on decisive action, and she'd already contacted a top criminal lawyer in Los Angeles to assess the tape's legal weight. Robert's not just hiding secrets, he's complicit. We need to know how deep this goes. Simone's mind calculated risks, but her heart ached. Robert, their white father, had been their rock. She poured a bourbon, offering it to her sisters, her leadership steadying the room. Nia, the scientist, sat with her laptop analyzing the tape's audio spectrum. Her UCLA hoodie was a stark contrast to the suite's grandeur, but her precision cut through the chaos. The tape's authentic, no edits, she confirmed, adjusting her glasses. But there's a background hum, like a car engine. It matches the night Michael died. She'd cross-referenced police reports from the Club Crescent fire, finding Frank Dubois was demoted for overlooking evidence. Nia's logic screamed conspiracy, but the sob, Grace's, haunted her. Why was she there? She murmured, her scientific detachment wavering. Jade, the military officer, leaned against the wall, her army uniform crisp despite the humid night. As a major in intelligence, she'd seen betrayal before, but not like this. Robert's meeting Frank now, she said, checking an encrypted message from her contact at the Absinthe House. They're arguing. Frank's nervous. Jade had run the threatening text. Leave or end like Michael through a military database, tracing it to a burner phone bought in New Orleans. Someone's protecting the Whitmores and Robert's their pawn. Her protective instincts burned, ready to confront the threat head-on. Layla, the social media star, clutched her notebook, lyrics spilling from her R&B soul. Her bohemian dress shimmered as she paced, the tape's sob echoing in her mind. Grace was crying. She knew something, she said, voice thick with emotion. Her Preservation Hall performance had drawn Grace out, and now Layla's empathy sensed a mother's pain. She'd received another anonymous Instagram message. Frank Dubois saw Robert at Michael's crash. Meet at Jackson Square. Midnight. Layla hesitated, then shared it. We can't ignore this, she urged, her intuition clashing with the other's caution. Simone slammed her glass down. Layla, no more reckless moves. That message could be a trap. Her entrepreneur's need for control flared, but Jade intervened, her military calm grounding them. It's a lead, but we verify first. I'll secure Jackson Square. Nia suggested analyzing the tape's second voice, suspecting a Whitmore, while Simone proposed luring Robert to the suite under the pretense of reconciliation. He'll talk if we corner him, she said, her negotiation skills sharpening. The sisters agreed to confront Robert first, and Simone texted him, Dad, we're scared. Come to the Monteleone. Let's fix this. Robert arrived an hour later, his silver hair disheveled, eyes darting. Girls, you shouldn't be here, he said, voice strained. Simone, using her deal-making prowess, sat him down. We heard the tape, Dad. You and Whitmore, talking about Michael's death. Explain. Robert paled, rubbing his hands. It's not what you think. I worked for the Whitmores, legal stuff. Michael's crash was an accident. I took you in to protect you from Grace's mess. Jade, her military training in spotting lies, stepped closer. You paid Frank to botch the fire investigation. You got $500,000 after Michael died. That's not protection. That's a cover-up. Robert's jaw tightened. You're twisting things. I saved you from a broken woman. Nia held up her tablet, showing the audio analysis. This tape places you at the scene, and Grace was there, crying. Why? Robert's eyes flickered, but he deflected. She was unstable, obsessed with Michael. I kept her quiet for your sake. Layla, her singer's heart breaking, knelt beside him. Dad, we love you, but you're lying. Grace is our mom. Did you hurt Michael? Her words pierced Robert's facade, and he slumped. I didn't kill him, he whispered. The Whitmores wanted him gone. His family didn't approve of Grace. I arranged the crash to look accidental, but I didn't drive the car. They paid me to raise you, to keep you safe from their world. The sisters froze, betrayal cutting deep. Simone's voice was ice. You sold our father's life for money? Robert shook his head. I loved you girls. I had no choice. The Whitmores are untouchable. Jade's phone buzzed. Her contact reported Frank fleeing the Absinthe house. Spooked. Frank's running, she said. He knows too much. Nia found a police report. Frank had evidence of sabotage in Michael's car, but buried it. Layla, tears falling, stood. We're meeting that witness at Jackson Square. We're done with lies. Simone hesitated, her control slipping, but nodded. We go together. As they prepared, Jade's team spotted Frank's car near the hotel. Robert had texted him. The sisters realized Robert was still playing both sides. Simone's phone rang. Marie, her contact, breathless. Grace just left her apartment, heading to Jackson Square. She's scared. The sisters raced into the night, their bond a beacon against Robert's betrayal. Was Grace running to them or from them? And what did Frank know that terrified him? As they neared Jackson Square, a figure watched from the cathedral's shadow. Robert whispering into his phone, They're here. It's time. The Atlanta skyline gleamed under a brewing storm, its glass towers reflecting the city's ambition. Inside the Whitmore Corporation's headquarters, a fortress of steel and marble, the four quadruplet sisters, Simone, Nia, Jade, and Layla, stood in a private elevator, ascending to the penthouse office of Eleanor Whitmore. The cassette tape, Robert's confession of arranging Michael's accidental crash, and Grace's sudden move to Jackson Square, had led them here, chasing the truth. Frank Dubois, Grace's cousin, had fled New Orleans, but a witness, Harold, a former Whitmore driver, had provided a damning photo. Robert accepting money from Eleanor after Michael's death. The sisters' bond, strained by betrayal, now faced the power of a dynasty. Simone, the entrepreneur, adjusted her tailored coat, her Luxa-Vibe empire giving her the clout to secure this meeting. Eleanor will try to intimidate us, she said, voice steady. We stay focused. Get her to admit the Whitmores wanted Michael gone. She'd leveraged her network to plant a story with a trusted journalist, hinting at a Whitmore scandal, ensuring pressure. Simone's negotiation skills were razor sharp, but Robert's text, "You're in over your heads," and Grace's fear gnawed at her. She clutched the photo, ready to wield it like a contract. Nia, the scientist, reviewed her tablet, where she'd compiled evidence. The tape's audio, police reports on Michael's sabotage car, and financial records of Robert's $500,000 payment. Her UCLA sweater was swapped for a blazer, but her analytical mind was relentless. The payment was wired through a Whitmore shell company, she said, glasses glinting. It's circumstantial, but with Harold's testimony, it's enough for a case. Nia's logic anchored the group, yet the thought of Grace, possibly at Jackson Square, tugged at her heart. She'd run a background check, confirming Harold's credibility. Jade, the military officer, stood rigid, her army uniform a shield against the corporate opulence. As a major in intelligence, she'd secured the sisters' travel from New Orleans, deploying a discreet team to monitor Jackson Square for Grace and Frank. Harold saw Robert at the crash site, she said, checking an encrypted update. Her team had intercepted a Whitmore security feed, revealing Eleanor's guards on high alert. They know we're coming. I've got eyes outside. Any move. We're covered. Jade's protective instincts burned, sensing a trap, but her sister's unity kept her grounded. Layla, the social media star, fidgeted with her necklace, her R&B soul churning. Her bohemian dress clashed with the sterile office, but her voice had millions behind it. Grace is out there, scared, she said, eyes wet. We're doing this for her. In New Orleans, Layla's Instagram story had drawn Harold's message, and now she'd drafted a live stream script, ready to broadcast from the lobby if Eleanor stonewalled. If we go public, the world will demand answers, she urged, her empathy clashing with Simone's caution. Layla's intuition sensed a reckoning, but fear lingered. Would Grace forgive them? The elevator doors opened to Eleanor Whitmore's office, a cavern of glass overlooking Atlanta. Eleanor, a regal woman in her 70s, sat behind a mahogany desk, her silver hair as cold as her smile. Ladies, to what do I owe this visit? She asked, voice smooth. Simone, ever the negotiator, stepped forward, placing the photo on the desk. This is you, paying Robert to silence Grace after Michael's death. We know the crash wasn't an accident. Talk. Eleanor's eyes flicked to the photo, unruffled. You're mistaken, she said. Michael was my nephew. A tragedy, but an accident. Robert was our lawyer, nothing more. Nia, analytical, countered. We have bank records, $500,000 to Robert, days after the crash. And this tape. She played a snippet. Robert's voice. Michael's gone. Grace won't talk. Eleanor's composure wavered, but she leaned back. Circumstantial. You have no proof. Jade, her military precision cutting through, stepped closer. Harold saw Robert at the crash site. Frank Dubois buried evidence of sabotage. Your family wanted Michael gone. Why? Eleanor's smile tightened. Michael was reckless, chasing a singer unfit for our name. We protected our legacy. Simone seized the moment, her business acumen shining. Admit it, or this story hits the press tomorrow. I've got a journalist ready. She held up her phone, a draft article visible. Layla, unable to stay silent, spoke from her heart. Grace is our mother. You stole her from us. Why? Her voice, raw with R&B soul, echoed in the room. Eleanor's gaze softened, just for a moment. Grace was collateral, she said. We paid Robert to keep her quiet, yes. Michael's death was unfortunate, but necessary. He defied us, and we don't tolerate defiance. The sisters gasped. Eleanor had admitted the motive, if not the act. Simone pressed record on her hidden device, capturing every word. You ordered the crash? Eleanor laughed, cold. Robert handled the details. He was loyal, until you started digging. Nia, quick thinking, uploaded the audio to a secure UCLA server, ensuring it couldn't be erased. Jade's phone buzzed. Her team spotted Frank at Jackson Square, with Grace nearby. We need to move, she said, sensing a setup. But Eleanor raised a hand. You want Grace? She's closer than you think. The sisters froze as Eleanor pressed a button, opening a side door. A security feed flickered on a screen, showing Grace in a Whitmore safe house in Atlanta, not Jackson Square. She's been with us, Eleanor said, working off her debt for our protection after the fire. Layla's voice broke. You kept our mother prisoner? Eleanor shrugged. She chose to stay, to keep you safe. Leave now, or she pays the price. Jade's military instincts kicked in, signaling her team to locate the safe house. Simone, thinking like a CEO, countered, release Grace, or we go public. Tape, photo, everything. Nia's tablet pinged. Harold had sent a second photo, showing Eleanor with Robert the night of the crash. Layla, seizing the moment, started a live stream from her phone, speaking to her millions. The Whitmores hid our mother. Help us bring her home. The video exploded, trending instantly. Eleanor's face paled as her phone lit up with alerts. You've made a mistake, she hissed, but the sisters stood united. As they left, Jade's team confirmed Grace's location. Malibu, not Atlanta. The safe house was a decoy. Robert had lied again, and Grace was in danger. The sisters' bond, forged in pain, now burned with purpose. Save their mother, expose the Whitmores, and end Robert's lies. The Malibu mansion loomed against the Pacific, its glass facade reflecting a stormy sea. Rain lashed the windows as the four quadruplet sisters, Simone, Nia, Jade, and Layla, stood in the mansion's grand foyer, their hearts pounding. Eleanor Whitmore's claim that Grace was in an Atlanta safe house was a lie. Jade's military team had traced her to this Whitmore property, posing as a house manager. The cassette tape, Robert's confession, and Eleanor's admission had exposed a web of deceit, but Grace's sob on the tape and her fear in New Orleans suggested she held secrets. The sisters' bond, tested by lies, now burned to save their mother. Simone, the entrepreneur, gripped her phone. Her Lux Vibe empire's resources stretched thin. Grace is here and we're getting her out, she said, voice firm despite the rain-soaked drive from Atlanta. She'd hired a private investigator to confirm Grace's presence, and her lawyer was drafting a case against the Whitmores. Simone's negotiation skills were ready to persuade Grace, but Robert's text, "You're in over your heads," and Eleanor's threat echoed. She scanned the foyer's opulence, her business mind noting cameras. "We're being watched," she whispered, her leadership steady. Nia, the scientist, clutched her tablet, where she'd stored the tape's audio and a new find. Grace's medical records from a Whitmore-funded clinic. "She has leukemia, advanced," Nia said, her UCLA blazer damp but her focus sharp. "That's why she stayed with the Whitmores. They paid for treatment." Nia's analysis of Grace's letters, intercepted by Robert years ago, showed desperate pleas to see her daughters. "She tried to reach us," Nia murmured, her scientific detachment cracking under the weight of Grace's pain. Jade, the military officer, stood by the door, her army uniform soaked but her posture unyielding. As a major in intelligence, she'd deployed her team to secure the mansion's perimeter, hacking its security to loop the cameras. "Eleanor's guards are on alert," she said, checking an encrypted update. Her New Orleans contact had tracked Frank Dubois to Atlanta, but he'd vanished after meeting Robert. "Grace knows more about Michael's death than she told us. We need her to talk." Jade's protective instincts flared, her hand on her radio, ready for any Whitmore retaliation. Layla, the social media star, held her guitar case, her R&B soul aching. Her bohemian dress clung to her, but her eyes burned with purpose. "Grace isn't a prisoner. She's trapped by guilt," she said, voice soft. Her live stream in Atlanta had gone viral, with millions using #Truth for Grace, pressuring the Whitmores. Layla had received a cryptic Instagram message. Grace kept a diary. Find it in Malibu. She'd kept it quiet, fearing Simone's rebuke, but her empathy sensed Grace needed them now. "Let's show her we're her family," she urged. A Whitmore guard escorted them to a study, where Grace stood, silver hair framing her scarred face. She wore a simple dress, her hands trembling. "You shouldn't have come," she said, voice raspy. Simone, ever the negotiator, stepped forward. "Grace, we know about the leukemia, the Whitmore's control. Come with us. We'll protect you. Grace's eyes welled. You don't understand. I stayed to keep you safe. The Whitmores would have hurt you if I fought. Nia, analytical, showed her tablet. We found your letters. Robert blocked them. You wanted us. Why not tell us in New Orleans? Grace sighed. I was ashamed. I knew about Michael's death and did nothing. Jade, her military mind sharp, pressed. You were on the tape, crying. What did you see? Grace looked away. The night Michael died, I followed Robert. I heard him plan the crash with a Whitmore fixer. I was too scared to speak. Eleanor offered me treatment if I stayed silent. Layla, her singer's heart breaking, knelt beside Grace. You're our mom. We forgive you. She sang a soft verse of Mother's Chains, her voice filling the room. Grace sobbed, clutching Layla's hand. I kept a diary, she whispered, pointing to a hidden panel behind the piano. Nia retrieved it, finding pages detailing Robert's threats and Eleanor's payments. This is enough to bury them, Nia said, her scientific rigor cataloging every entry. Simone, thinking like a CEO, offered, We'll fund your treatment, Grace. Leave this place. She'd already texted her lawyer to secure a safe house, but Grace shook her head. I'm dying, Simone. I stayed for you, but I have one last thing. She handed Layla a silver locket, whispering, Open it. Inside was a microchip. Jade, her military instincts kicking in, recognized it. This is a recording device. What's on it? Grace's voice dropped. Robert and Eleanor, the night they planned Michael's death. I recorded it to protect you, but I was too weak to use it. The sisters exchanged glances, their bond stealing. Simone's phone buzzed, a text from her investigator. Whitmore guards en route. Get out now. Jade's team reported movement outside, armed men approaching. We're out of time, she said, signaling an escape route through a service exit. As they fled, Grace stumbled, her illness weakening her. Layla supported her, singing softly to keep her calm. Nia clutched the diary, Simone led the way, and Jade covered their rear, radioing her team. They reached a safe house in Los Angeles, but the microchip's contents played on Nia's laptop chilled them. Eleanor's voice, Michael dies or Grace dies. Robert's reply, It's done. Grace's eyes closed, tears falling. I failed him, she whispered. The sisters realized Grace had been both victim and complicit, her silence a desperate act of survival. As they planned to expose the Whitmores, Jade's team intercepted a message. Robert was heading to Malibu with Frank Dubois. The sisters' mission was clear: protect Grace, deliver justice, and end the lies. But a new threat emerged. Grace's diary named a living Whitmore fixer, still hunting them. The historic Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta glowed with warmth, its stained glass windows casting rainbows across pews filled with mourners. The organ's gospel hum mingled with soft sobs as the four quadruplet sisters, Simone, Nia, Jade, and Layla, stood at the altar, surrounded by flowers. 6 months ago, in a Malibu mansion, they'd rescued their birth mother, Grace, whose leukemia claimed her days later. The microchip in her locket, recording Robert and Eleanor Whitmore planning Michael's murder, had sparked justice. But Grace's diary revealed a living Whitmore fixer, still a threat. Now the sisters' bond, forged through pain, shone as they celebrated Grace's life in their unbreakable family. Simone, the entrepreneur, adjusted her elegant black dress, her luxe vibe empire now a force for change. Grace's legacy, her foundation, had raised millions for Black women escaping abuse, and today's memorial was its cornerstone. We're here to honor our mother, she said, her voice steady, addressing the crowd, community leaders, activists, and Grace's old jazz friends. Simone's business acumen had turned grief into action, securing Robert's arrest and a federal probe into the Whitmores. Yet her heart, once guarded, now open to her sisters, her leadership a beacon of hope. Nia the scientist stood beside her, her UCLA blazer swapped for a tailored suit. Her research on leukemia, inspired by Grace, had earned a National Institutes of Health grant, and she'd launched a free health app for Black communities, funded by Simone's foundation. Grace fought for us, Nia said, her analytical mind softened by love. She'd analyzed Grace's diary, providing evidence to convict Robert, and trace the Whitmore fixer, a man named Victor, to a hideout in Miami. Nia's precision ensured justice, but her quiet tears honored Grace's sacrifice. Jade, the military officer, wore her army dress uniform, her major's insignia gleaming. Her team had captured Victor days after Malibu, neutralizing the Whitmore threat. Grace gave us the truth, Jade said, her voice firm. She'd been honored by the Pentagon for her role in exposing the Whitmore's corruption, and now led a program training black women in cybersecurity. Jade's protective instincts had saved her sisters, and her speech, dedicating a scholarship in Grace's name, reflected her commitment to their legacy, her stoic facade cracking as she hugged Layla. Layla, the social media star, held a microphone, her R&B soul filling the church. Her album For Grace topped Billboard, its title track a tribute to their mother's courage. Grace sang for freedom, Layla said, her bohemian shawl swaying. Her viral Farce Truth for Grace campaign had rallied millions, forcing the Whitmore's downfall. Today she performed Family Found, a gospel-infused ballad, her voice soaring as mourners rose, hands raised. Layla's empathy had healed Grace's heart in her final days, and her music now united a community, her sisters joining her in harmony. The memorial unfolded with tributes. Jazz musicians played Grace's old standards, and activists praised her resilience. Simone announced a new shelter funded by Grace's legacy, earning applause. Nia shared data on leukemia disparities in black communities, urging action. Jade presented medals to her team, crediting their protection. Layla invited the choir to join her, their voices shaking the rafters. The sisters stood together, their bond a testament to love over lies. As the service ended, they gathered at Grace's grave, a simple stone etched with "Beloved Mother." Simone placed a rose, whispering, "We made it right." Nia added a candle, her voice soft. "You're with us." Jade saluted, her eyes wet. "Rest now." Layla sang a final note, her locket, Grace's gift, glinting. They formed a circle, hands clasped, their laughter and tears mingling. "We're family," Layla said, "always." A lawyer approached, handing Simone a letter. Grace's last, written before her death. The sisters read together, "My girls, I gave you life, but you gave me redemption. I donated the Whitmore money to a black orphanage. My final song for you. Love, Grace." The sisters smiled, their mother's courage their guide. Outside, Atlanta's sun broke through, a rainbow arcing over the church. As the sisters' journey ends, their bond shines, forged through secrets and sacrifice. Grace's truth, once buried, now lights their path, proving family is love, not lies. What did you think of their story? Will their legacy inspire change? Share your thoughts, where you're listening from, and your hopes for their future. Don't miss the twists that await. Subscribe, hit that like button, and join our community. Thank you for staying with us, for feeling every tear in triumph. Your support keeps these stories alive. Until next time, keep seeking truth and let love lead.